you come second to the narcissist more than you know. Regular viewers of my work, and those of you who have experienced ensnarement with the narcissist, will well recognize that you come second to what the narcissist requires. You will have found yourself relegated to second place in the relationship. Now, no relationship is truly equal. For instance, it might be said that one person's more affectionate towards the other than the other way around, that one perhaps might do more in terms of financial contribution or domestic contribution, but it's largely seen as balancing itself out. But it's meant to be fairly equal with both parties, respecting one another, loving one another, contributing to the relationship, not abusing one another, so that there is a meaningful outcome for them both. With the narcissist, of course, it's all about the prime aims, controlling you as the other half, drawing fuel from you on a regular basis, huge amounts of fuel, huge amounts of potent fuel from you. Acquiring your character traits and ensuring those residual benefits are accessed. That is your role. You, as I've memorably said before, are a toaster. You are there to be used by the narcissist. You are there for the narcissist to get what he or she requires, which means that you are, in effect, an afterthought. It might appear at first that you are number one, because you're placed on that pedestal. But that's just a fiction. You're given all of the good stuff to get you to come into the relationship. You are idealized, flattered, complimented, etc. But you're still actually secondary to what the narcissist requires, or secondary in the relationship, because the narcissist gets what they require from you. They're just doing it in a way which you don't realize is actually going to prove to be harmful to you. You think you're getting plenty of the good stuff also. When devaluation occurs, be it corrective devaluations for secondary sources, or the more horrendous sustained devaluation that takes place for the intimate partner primary source, you then start to realize that you very much do come second in the relationship. That the narcissist does things for themselves, ignores you, insults you, puts you down, perhaps physically assaults you. Those direct behaviors cause you to realize that you are second in this relationship. But there's also an interesting aspect to the dynamic with the narcissist where people don't realize just how much they do come second in a way which is a little bit unusual. Unsurprisingly, when you've been subjected to the repeated manipulations through the sustained devaluation or corrective devaluation, it is often the case that that victim, as a consequence of the way that they've been treated and their heightened emotional thinking, believes that everything that narcissists do or does is aimed at them. So take, for example, you're hosting a gathering at your house later with perhaps some friends, which doesn't involve the narcissist. You make some lovely food, and you'd indicated earlier to the narcissist, I'm going to be making this food, it's going to be on the top shelf in the fridge, don't touch it. The narcissist wanders into the kitchen. He's hungry. He opens the fridge, and he devours quite a bit of the food that you've prepared. You then see this, and typically the victim will think, you've done this on purpose to spite me. This view is formed as a consequence of the treatment that they've been receiving for quite a period of time from the narcissist, along with the impact of their emotional thinking. But in actual fact, the narcissist did not do it on purpose to spite you. The narcissist did it because of their own self-absorption and the fact that you come second. Even when the narcissist isn't thinking about you, you still come second. This is because there's no emotional empathy to prevent the narcissist from engaging in this behavior. A non-narcissist, feeling hungry, goes into the kitchen, opens the fridge, sees the food, and will either automatically ignore it because their emotional empathy acts in that way, so that they don't even have to think about it, they just recognize that's off limits, or they're tempted, but they think to themselves, no, My wife made this for her friends tonight. She'll be upset if I eat it, so I'll choose something else to eat. With the narcissist, he doesn't even think. In that moment, he's hungry. His needs matter. Therefore, he takes. He has no boundary recognition. He has no emotional empathy holding him in place. He has no sense of accountability. He has that huge sense of entitlement. He doesn't do it thinking, do you know what? I know that my wife has made this for her gathering tonight, but I'll eat it anyway because that'll really piss her off. The vast majority of narcissists will do so simply because they're hungry. The wife isn't on the radar. And the way that their narcissism works, it doesn't register that this food had the prior warning of don't eat it. It's simply, me hungry, food eat. And that is how the narcissist responds. But you are, of course, being placed second because the self-absorption and needs of the narcissist means that your prepared food then gets eaten by the narcissist. Commonly, the response of the victim is to think that the narcissist has done it on purpose, but they haven't. Similarly, when a narcissist goes off and has an affair with somebody, often the victim thinks that they've done it deliberately to spite them. It isn't the case. In the vast majority of instances, the narcissist is simply focusing on their own needs. Whilst their person they live with, their wife, their husband, is in sustained devaluation, that effectively causes the narcissist to be able to act as they wish. But when they're balls deep in somebody, they're not thinking, haha, this'll show my wife. She doesn't exist at that juncture. She isn't on the radar. The narcissist is simply fixated on his own needs, which is the person he's having an affair with is on the radar. He needs to control that person. Sex is a brilliant way of controlling them. It provides him with plenty of fuel, which is what he needs, and he gets the residual benefit of it that it feels good. He's not thinking about his wife. He's thinking about the person that's in front of him for the purposes of controlling her, drawing fuel from her, and getting that residual benefit. His wife is nowhere in his thoughts whatsoever, because again, his narcissism operates to create that self-absorption and to cause him to act in his own interests without any due regard. That person, the intimate partner primary source, is once again relegated to second place, even when she's not being thought about. Similarly, the narcissist will go off and spend money, perhaps spending money that doesn't belong to them, perhaps spending money that shouldn't be spent out of the household budget because it will cause a problem, but does so because he wants that shiny new thing, or she wants that latest pair of shoes. That's done because of the vanity and the narcissism, showing that sense of entitlement, that lack of boundary recognition to be spending money that they ought not to. It is not the case that the narcissist will ordinarily be thinking, do you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go out and buy these new shoes to piss him off. The husband, the boyfriend, whoever it might be, isn't on the radar. What matters is the needs of the narcissist. And even then they're not thinking about that person becomes relegated to second place. It isn't done directly to provoke you. The reason being, you're not being thought about at that point. You're not on the narcissist radar, and when you're not on the radar, it's as if you are dead. You simply do not exist. Take also the instance of you are meeting the narcissist. Let's say you're meeting in the pub, and you've arranged to meet at 7 o'clock. You arrive a few minutes early. The narcissist isn't there. You buy yourself a drink and sit down. You're waiting. The narcissist still doesn't turn up, so 5 minutes after the hour, you send a text message. Unbeknownst to you, the narcissist who is at work is chatting away with a colleague, perhaps making eyes at them, flirting with them. At that point, even though they have a meeting with you at 7 p.m, you're forgotten about. You don't exist. And you're therefore relegated to second position because the narcissist is talking to this new colleague. Therefore, all that matters in his world at that time is that colleague. He's asserting control over that colleague and drawing fuel from them. You are forgotten about. The moment that you send your text saying, I'm here at the pub, are you on your way? You then come up on the narcissist's radar. Now, at that juncture, you're actually interfering with his control over this new prospect. And therefore, he needs to nullify your threat to control, so sends you a text message back saying, just finishing up at work, we'll be there shortly. Your threat to control is then nullified by that response, and you perhaps replying okay, showing that you're under control, and then you're suddenly forgotten about as the narcissist focuses on the person who's sat next to them at his desk and is talking to this new individual. Thus, another 10 minutes go by, and the narcissist still hasn't turned up at the pub and is now 15 minutes late. You then send another message. That puts you back on the radar, and you ask, where are you? This is a threat to control because you're questioning the narcissist. The narcissist responds, just had to speak to somebody, on my way now. And then you're forgotten about. And he then deals with the person that sat next to him because they're on his radar. And because that's the person that needs the immediate control and is providing lots of fuel, you become forgotten about. The narcissist isn't deliberately keeping you waiting to be nasty to you. The narcissist is keeping you waiting as a collateral consequence of the fact that he's focusing on somebody else. Because his needs come first, vis-a-vis control and fuel, etc., his narcissism is saying, focus on this new person in front of you. So he does. He's not thinking, I'll focus on this person and I'll also piss her off. That's good. You're forgotten about. You're relegated to second. But you would be forgiven for thinking that it's being done on purpose. Now, of course, there are instances where the narcissist will purposefully ignore you, but in this scenario, that's not the case. And a lot of the time, the behaviours of the narcissist, as I've explained, with regard to eating the food out of the fridge, going and having sex with somebody else, spending the money that ought not to be spent, and continuing to talk to somebody in the office whilst you're kept waiting, are all driven by their own selfishness and self-absorption rather than a desire to do harm to you. What it underpins, is you are second. You're second in the sense of being second to the needs of the narcissist, but you're also second in the sense that you're not actually being thought about. You're that irrelevant in the scheme of things with the narcissist. So that it isn't about the narcissist doing things on purpose to you, although you often think that that's the case, which ironically is quite narcissistic to think that it's always aimed at you. In actual fact, it's a self-absorption and the needs of the narcissist that come first, and you just happen then to be relegated to second by virtue of their focus on themselves. I'm H.G. Tudor. Thank you for listening.